The life of a football player is not easy. Yeah, we know what you're thinking. How can life be difficult when you have a bulging bank account, a huge house, and so on? Well, if we look at the surface, it makes a lot of sense. The popularity and the wealth these footballers are enjoying these days was unheard of if we go back a few decades. There was a time when footballers were working in mines and also helping their teams win league titles. However, those days are long gone. With so much money being poured into the game, it's become fairly easy for these players to have this sense of entitlement. But that is just one side of the story. There are times when journalists and TV personalities take things a little too far. Regardless of how a team is playing, those who report and analyse the game at times try to be too critical of players. There have been instances where players have actually taken matters into their own hands. While this isn't really a common sight these days, it's always strange to see a player or manager take up issue with a reporter or an analyst. Quite recently, Manchester United's Paul Pogba showed us that his patience has run out when it comes to dealing with an overly critical Graham Souness. The Liverpool legend has been a vocal critic of the France international and has jumped at every opportunity to say something about him. And while there are times when Souness makes sense, in some cases the former midfielder has definitely sounded more like a person who's dishing it out rather than being critical of Pogba's performances. The mercurial midfielder eventually took matters into his own hands and said that initially he didn't even know who Souness was. That was definitely a below-the-belt remark, but we think that Souness had it coming. What's funnier is that the Liverpool legend chose to respond in a manner that isn't befitting of a football personality of his stature. Souness said, and we quote, "Count the number of titles you've won." But hey, this was a very civilised war of words. Hello everyone and welcome to yet another exciting video on your favourite football retreat, Goalside. We're insanely passionate about bringing you the best stuff from the world of football and would really love it if you guys could go ahead, subscribe to our channel and never miss out on all the good stuff. In today's video we're going to discuss a few cases where players and journalists have clashed. Some of these cases would be an average war of words while others might even be related to players assaulting journalists. Back in 2012, Cameroon were expected to finally end their wait for African football dominance. The indomitable Lions had the squad to dream big with Samuel Eto'o leading from the front. Sadly though, that Cameroonian squad would never win anything of note, and they even lost the 2012 African Cup qualification game against Senegal in Dakar. The result was a huge upset, and Eto'o was in no mood to get into the final details of the defeat. However, one brave journalist, Moussa Tandian, thought about trying his luck and pointed out to the Barcelona man that this was a very disappointing performance from the golden generation of Cameroonian football. Rather than answering what qualified as a proper question, the irked striker admonished Tandian for his journalistic qualities, before going on to say that it's the journalists who just don't like to see Africa advance. Here's the whole retort in full. "I'm rather surprised, dear brother, because you are making yourself noticed negatively," Eto'o said. "You should rather think about excusing yourself. I think that you are not Cameroonian," he went on. "I will speak to your boss at Equinox, because you don't deserve to work for this wonderful channel. You journalists, certain journalists like you who do not want Africa to advance, you who do not want Cameroon to advance, you are always negative. Try to change a little," he said. But this moment of madness would cost the star striker big time, as he would be made to apologise to the reporter whose boss, Théophile Biamou, said that there are no bad questions. It's worth mentioning that this wasn't the first time Eto'o had lost his cool in front of the media. Back in 2008, Eto'o allegedly assaulted a reporter named Philippe Bonnet. The altercation left the journalist with a broken arm, and it wasn't Eto'o who was the only person involved in the fight. Reportedly, other members of the Cameroonian national team were present and allegedly snatched belongings of other journalists. Going against a media giant. Now, when it comes to disrupting an entire World Cup campaign, nobody did it better than the French national side during an event in South Africa in 2010. This was the time when France were in dire straits and were without the services of the legendary Zinedine Zidane. Raymond Domenech was the man in charge, and he was already having a difficult time as Les Bleus campaign looked pretty much over in the group stages. Behind the scenes there was a storm brewing up, with many players feeling completely disillusioned by the man management skills of the under-fire manager. The whole issue was eventually brought to light when Nicolas Anelka was ordered to pack his bags and leave the country. Ahead of the last training session before the game against South Africa, French players walked out, and in the media a lot was made out of the fact that it was the former Liverpool striker who orchestrated the whole thing. It was L'Équipe who began this whole controversy, but Anelka wasn't one to stay quiet for too long. The striker took the sports paper to court for libel for printing details of his obscene rant at Domenech. The issue has since then been sorted out, but the memories still live to this day. A few years ago, Anelka revealed that he was not being played in his preferred position throughout the tournament and said that he shouldn't have been picked for the World Cup in the first place if he was going to be played out of position. When it comes to interviewing, Manchester United and Real Madrid legend Cristiano Ronaldo knows how to handle himself, but at times, even the great one runs out of patience. Ahead of a Champions League clash against AS Roma, a journalist hinted at the forward's recent record of not being able to score as freely as he usually does. Ronaldo took exception to this and asked the journalist if he can name one player who has scored more away goals than him in Spain right now. After giving the journalist a few seconds to come up with a name, the visibly frustrated Portugal international stood up and left. Now, this is not what you come to expect from the former Ballon d'Or winner, but we gotta say that sometimes people do step on your toes a little and it can become very unbearable. Never get on Zlatan's wrong side. When Zlatan arrived at Paris Saint-Germain, the Swede was the main man at the club. This meant that Edinson Cavani was confined to a marginal role in terms of him being a focal point in the attack. However, to this day, Zlatan has never had anything bad to say about his former teammate. Sadly though, a journalist thought that he might be able to make something out of the situation and asked Ibrahimovic about his relationship with the South American striker. Zlatan was clearly offended by the question and gave the journalist 15 minutes of hell, which started with the following statement. "You seem to know more than me since you write so many things about it. Do you know football better than me? No. Then why are you speaking?" The journalist equally took offence and retorted back by saying that he's just doing his job, to which Zlatan responded in a great style, mentioning the fact that he wasn't sure if he was speaking with a journalist or a cameraman, since he was carrying a camera as well. The Swede even asked the reporter if his newspaper did not have the budget. When Mahrez was stopped from speaking. Former Algerian national team coach Rabah Majer is a very sensitive person. Back in 2017, Majer was angered by a journalist who questioned the national team's quality following a win over the Central African Republic. Before Riyad Mahrez could answer the question, Majer stopped him from doing so and said, "Mr. Jebour, journalist from Channel 3, you are an enemy of the national team," he continued. "You're an enemy of the national team, and I say in front of everyone, listen boys, if I have respect for you, indicating the other journalists, I don't have any respect for you." When Jebour attempted to respond, Majer shouted, "Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, retire, give the youngsters a chance, don't take the youngsters' place." Diego Maradona, a gift that just keeps on giving. Do you know which football club in Italy Maradona played for? Answer this and you might win a $100 Amazon gift card. Make sure that you write your answers in the comment section. When it comes to really causing controversy, no one can do the job better than the Argentine legend. Maradona never had a great relationship with reporters while as a player, and now that he's into coaching, the former Boca Juniors man has become more cynical. Argentina literally huffed and puffed towards the 2010 World Cup qualification. It was clear that the Albiceleste were a troubled team and their manager had no idea what to do. Journalists were constantly talking about all the shortcomings the national team had under the former World Cup winner. Eventually, it all got too much for Maradona. When a reporter asked about Argentina's struggles, the eccentric legend used words that would never be forgotten. "Keep sucking my blank." Clearly, Maradona was at the end of his wits. It would be a travesty if we had this list and did not talk about the fights Jose Mourinho has had with journalists over the years. During his second spell as the manager of Chelsea, a journalist pointed out that the manager's third season at any club was never really great. Well, the reporter touched a nerve and pretty much knew what he was getting himself into. Here's what Mourinho had to say about this. Search on Google instead of asking stupid questions. The question is stupid. The King of Manchester. 1995 was a turbulent year for Manchester United. The Red Devils won the Premier League, managed to do fairly well in the Champions League, and had to spend a great part of the season without the services of their talismanic figure, Eric Cantona, who was banned for 7 months from football after going Chuck Norris on a Nottingham fan. This was the moment that gave reporters a lot of stuff to write about, but little did they know that they were dealing with a highly intelligent football player who was never going to be bothered by what was written about him. Cantona would go on to give a punchline that has gone down in history books as one of the most bizarre yet clever responses in football history. When the seagulls follow the trawler, it is because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Now, in order to understand this statement, you really need to be a genius, have a dab hand in poetry, and be a philosopher thinking on the same wavelength as King Cantona. So this is the end of our list of players and managers clashing with journalists and coming up with responses that left reporters dumbfounded. Let us know your thoughts in the comments.